Welcome back to the kitchen build, everyone. This time we are getting into paint and hopefully getting through the rest of any last little bits of trim detail in this one. So this is kind of where we're at. I'm on day 6 of paint prep in the space, and there's a bunch of weird things going on and all that stuff. So let's start getting some more prep work done. And at this point, I'm actually almost done with day 6. It's like 4 o'clock already. And I'm kind of already getting sick of this. So that's where we're at. So I'm not going to really cover a whole lot of prep work up until this point. I did that in a little more detail when we did the sunroom. It's exactly the same process. I think that's episode 67. I believe. I'll put it up here on screen so you know what episode that was. But you know, all of the nail holes, screw holes, gaps or anything get filled, and then from there, sanding, cleaning, any masking, pre-caulking, and then every single inside corner seam gets a bead of caulk. So I've already gone through 3 tubes. And it takes me about a whole day to go through a tube. So there's that much, like a little bit of caulking like everywhere. Now, as far as these the cabinets go, I wasn't planning on doing any of this. I was working towards having the cabinets come in here, get installed, and then never get touched again. You know, that doesn't always work out perfectly either. So there's a few different cases of things that happen to cabinets. Either they got damaged, which happens, or the paint color was wrong. or actually the last one is my skills as a painter have improved in the full year that I have been doing this already. So the appliance garage is the one that does not look that great because my paint skills back then apparently weren't that good, so it's going to get repainted. This one got damaged, and a couple of cases actually with that. When I was building this lower cabinet out, I had it outside in the driveway on the workbench, and I had the face frame stood up, and I was getting the plywood ready to go on, and a gust of wind came by and blew the whole thing off the workbench, and like cracked most of the seams on here. And I was just gonna live with it and be fine with it and not have to do this. But then when the electricians were in here installing the wiring for the charging station, I don't know, they must have slipped or something. They put this really huge gouge in the front here. You know, I felt bad about it, but I guess in retrospect it's good because then it forces me to actually redo this whole cabinet and fix all of my cracked seams and everything. So that's unfortunately where this one's at. The other ones with the paint color, I have no idea what happened with those. I have a hunch. I'm guessing it's my fault. I'm going to guess that as I was working down my gallon of paint, because I usually spray about a quart at a time, I didn't stir it enough, so as I was getting down lower and lower, the pigment was getting stronger because it wasn't getting stirred up. Either that or that was around the same time that I switched from having like a little jar of catalyst that I get from the supplier and like a can that was kind of not doing so well because the catalyst will eat through the can, to getting my own jug in a plastic container and not having to worry about that anymore. So maybe the catalyst wasn't good. I don't know, but it is what it is. It's all the uppers, and I'll put some video in here. You can see like the color from like the drawer fronts to the face frames are completely different, and it's not something I noticed until I installed the drawers. And then when I got the doors installed, it was the same thing on the upper cabinets. I didn't realize those were off as well, so those are gonna get redone as well. So in reality, I was trying to save myself a lot of work here, but there's only a few cabinets that aren't going to be repainted. The upper cabinet here, the hutch, that one's fine, and then everything on that wall, the sink base and then the cabinet next to the dishwasher, and then the other one that's next to the sink base are fine. But you know, here we are. So in here, to make this a little bit easier for masking, I've removed the slides and my little partition stiffener things. That way I can mask as one big giant cavity instead of having to mask 4 individual ones. I'm using this 2-sided tape thing, and with that masking inside the cavity, it keeps the film back away from the rails, so I don't have to worry about the film touching it and messing with the paint, even though it doesn't really matter, because at least on most of these you're not going to see them because the drawer boxes conceal all of that. But it makes me feel good to not have the plastic flying around and landing in my wet paint. And if you got it a little too loose, like I did here, you can see it's touching. You can actually tension it with a piece of tape pretty easily. You just kind of go there, and you kind of make a little thing like that, and you can pinch the tape together, and that'll actually pinch the plastic. Give you a little more tension, it's a little too loose. This is, that's not too bad actually. We'll do one more. Okay, next cavity. Well, here we are a day later. That's all set up and ready. I got most of the floor covered. This front section here, the window sills and the glass all masked off. This has a curtain which I can drop as soon as I'm ready to cover up all this stuff. Those are all masked off as well. This cabinet here got some damage down here. So I know you guys laugh at me for being in here in my socks all the time, but when the HVAC guys came in here with their boots, setting that hood, you know, they clipped those corners on there, so this one has the wrong paint color and it has damage, so whatever. Next thing on the list is to get this great room situation here enclosed, so I need to make like a little housing thing that allows me to spray this casing, but makes the great room not part of the spray booth. So I have a little more caulking to do on this side, masking, and then we'll drape a curtain onto some pole support things. Yeah, there's a 4th tube of caulking opened, tiny little hole. A lot of this is just a small, tiny bit of caulking. The puncturing tool on the caulk gun is too big for the hole size that I want. So a piece of 14 gauge ground. Bare copper wire looks great to pierce that. And there's a little tiny bead of caulking. Let's go caulk! So here's how the bead details basically everywhere go as they get caulked into whatever that they die into. I use a finger along the seam, and then I can use a putty knife into the bottom of the bead to roll the caulking back inside of there and get a nice clean looking seam. And that's how every single end point of one of these beaded casings gets treated. So that takes care of enough of the prep. So now I can go ahead and I can spray my first coat onto the windows. The jambs don't have any top coat on them. And I can sand and coat the beam and column detail that I flushed up and basically removed all the paint that I had on there from before. So that has to get rebuilt up. And while that's drying, I can finish the pantry because it still needs a lot of caulking. Okay, so the next day, everything I sprayed yesterday is looking pretty good. Ready to be sanded. Pantry is all caulked and almost ready to go. I have a little bit of coverage to still add to there. And I'm going to start getting into sanding and prepping everything. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to respray this whole column beam detail thing in the sunroom because I was never really happy with the finish on it. So that's gonna get redone. So time for a lot of sanding. Well, that was a much longer day of prep than I was hoping. I figured I'd be spraying today, but it's 4:30 already. But at least I am basically done with prep. I sanded everything in the room. Got all my last little bit of masking done, any little bits of caulking done. So tomorrow before I do spray, I gotta vacuum everything, clean everything, wipe everything down. That should get me through a little bit of the morning until the temps warm up a little bit, and then we can actually get into spraying for real. It should be pretty much good to go tomorrow when I'm ready to go. So with everything cleaned and vacuumed, sanded, caulked, it's finally time to spray for real. What are we on? I got 9 days into all of this to this point, and then hopefully just a few hours of spraying. But most of the time goes into surface prep. Surrounding prep goes extremely quickly. And I have talked about the paint products and the sprayer in the past, but it's been a little while and I got a lot of questions about this stuff, so we're gonna run through this whole process real quick. So this is the top coat that I've been using for everything. It's a conversion varnish, so it is a 2-component paint that requires this catalyst to be mixed into it before it'll actually cure or do anything. This should be a fresh can because I bought this yesterday, so it was just shaking. So it shouldn't need too much mixing, in theory. Now the thing with adding the catalyst is that once this catalyst goes in there, this now has a 24-hour pot life. So normally when I'm painting everything I've been doing so far, it's only been like a quart at a time, which is plenty for what I'm doing. But for the whole room, we're gonna activate a whole gallon. That takes 4 ounces per gallon, and the gallon can of the paint comes in at 4 ounces under a gallon, so when you put the catalyst in there, you end up with a full can. We're gonna go to a larger mixing container because I gotta thin this for the gun as well. I don't get to use a mixing cup for the catalyst very often. Normally I use a syringe because you only need an ounce per quart, which is what I normally mix. Or if you mix a pint or half a quart, it's even less. All right, so for the reducer, or the thinner, they call it a reducer. It's this extra special stuff you can buy that you can use to make it actually come out of the gun. If you look at the product data sheet for this product, it'll tell you for HVLP, which is what I'm doing, you want to reduce it by either 45 to 55%. And what I have found is if I use a 2 millimeter tip, if I reduce it to 45, I will get kind of a not full atomization. It's kind of a heavier atomization. So the particle size is pretty large. So if I'm going to do like a heavy coat, if I'm doing like intermediate coat, that's fine. I don't have to reduce it as much. But for a finished coat, I need to be right around 50%. I was using a 1.8 millimeter and I had to thin it 50 or 55%. So going to a 2, which that's the thing they don't tell you about this like spray system stuff. You buy the sprayer and you spend like, whatever it's like $1,400, $1,500 for the sprayer, and then it comes with none of the accessories you might actually need. You get one tip, the 1.3, which I never use for any of this stuff. And then you got to buy extra tips that are like $80 a piece. You got to have all the extra consumables in case something breaks or you lose something or the seals go bad or the pickup tubes or the pressure straws, whatever, go bad. All kinds of things you need. So anyway, today thinned at 50%. We're running a 2mm tip, and that should give us a very fine atomization for a thinner coat. At least that's my unprofessional experience speaking. So here is the viscosity now. Pretty heavy. I'd say it's just a little bit thinner than latex, and we're going to go pretty close to water. Well, maybe not quite water, but it'll be pretty thin. That's 25% thinned. Still kind of goopy. And again, this is just what I've found that works best in the 20-something gallons of the stuff that I've sprayed so far. And there is the viscosity now. Very light, so I'll give it a really thin coat, and the gun will be able to fully atomize that at a very fine particle size. So we have a nice, even finish, fine finish, finish coat, whatever you want to call it. I like to let the paint chill in the cup for a bit while I assemble the gun. For whatever reason, this makes me feel good. Give some time for the chemical reaction to start. So today, just like the last time I coated in here, we're using the pressure pot. So this allows me to take all the fluid, the cup, off the gun and just have the gun. You can spray in any position. And you don't have the weight of the fluid on the gun, giving you more wrist pain, wrist fatigue, as you're not carrying around all the material in the gun. But then you got to carry the stupid pot around, or at least keep it within 6 feet of you, which is not really enough. So I think this would be better with a much longer hose on it. The standard 6-foot one's not quite long enough. It's long enough if you want to wear the pot, but that gets old too. So that's how I store the components between sprays. I just leave them in whatever the cup I'm using, in lacquer thinner, and that's it. So we got those, we got the needle, and we got all the other little bits and pieces here. So for like accessories, if you're gonna get one of these, I bought this, so I have all these parts in case I lose them or in case they wear out. And then for the normal cup, there's these kits that have the pressure tubes and the cup seals and then the lid seals in here as well, because those wear out as well, especially these one-way valve things. If you get any paint or things backed up in this tube, they're basically done, and your pot won't pressurize and no fluid will come out. It's annoying until you realize what's going on, and then you know what the problem is whenever you encounter it again. That was one of the fun spraying experiences I had once, where I'm like, why won't any paint come out of this? Oh, it's because the cup's not pressurizing. Duh. And I know from last time, my fan pattern I had set, I was at a turn and a little bit, almost a half. And I can check the fan pattern as we go. That's the one advantage of an HVLP gun over like an airless gun. On the fly, you can change your fan size and your flow. So if your fan's bigger, you need more material to get the same coverage, or if you need to put a little light coat to put some more on, you can turn down the flow and just put out a little bit more to get you there. I've let everything sit and cure for a few days, and now I am getting ready to go through and do my recoats and touch-ups because I'm not perfect and great at this. So towards the end of the spray session, I got some nice runs here on this cabinet and this casing here, and then down there the coating is a little bit light, so you can still see some of the Bondo from the repairs I did, so I got to respray this whole thing. And a lot of this process is coming up with like decent stop points for the spraying. I, at least, cannot just touch up one spot. Maybe someone that's really good at spraying could like fade it in and fade it out. If I try to touch up one spot like that, the sheen will be different and you'll see the actual touch-up spot. So for me, I have to find a good stop point to actually get a full-on spray thing and have that spray stop somewhere without spraying literally everything all over again. Because I have this casing and the whole front face of this thing to spray, the easiest thing for me is going to be my stop point be right there where that bead is. I can spray the whole casing, the whole lower cabinet, and I can either stop here on this corner or I can wrap around and do the same thing over here and have a stop point on that bead. But on this one, on this casing, you can just make out a little bit of shadow from where my screw was. So this is, it's fine, but because I'm going through here anyway, I might as well just continue and give us a second coat, cover that a little more, and just end right there. So that's one whole section there. Now actually everything over on this wall is actually really good and like basically perfect. I've come a long way in my spraying in the vertical plane, so I'm actually surprised that all of this, there's no runs, there's no light spots, it looks perfect all the way through here. The only issues I have are on this front set of windows with the two beaded casings. Again, didn't get enough coverage, and you can still see the screw holes. So on these ones again, well, this will be basically the same thing. We'll have a stop point here, and then we'll have a stop point inside this corner here, and we can just spray just that casing. And I have the same problem over here. Like that one, I can kind of see that screw head there, and I think that's it. Oh, this one's kind of, there's a little bit of a shadow there, so it could be recoated. So we'll do that one, and the cabinet behind me. Yeah, that casing is resprayed and looks a lot better now. You can't see any of the patches. This one I just sprayed as well, also looking good. I ended up respraying the entire fridge surround, this whole opening, the lower case, and the crown on this side. The side panel of the fridge surround was a little light, so it's kind of speckly. So I figured I might as well respray that. There was some little bit of inconsistency up here. You can see like one of the screws on that thing. So I just figured, instead of finding all these different stop points, to just spray all the way through again. And I stopped here, and that looks pretty nice. Also, I've been busy. I resprayed the entire pantry. The coverage was not even enough or not thick enough in a few places with just one coat. So the areas that got sanded through, the single coat didn't cover that enough, so I wasn't that happy with it. So I sanded the entire thing, cleaned the entire thing, and then sprayed a second coat, and things are much more uniform and pretty now, especially around this situation here where there's a bunch of stuff coming together. That looks a lot more uniform. These corners that were sanded completely through are a lot more crisp now and uniform in coverage, so I'm really happy with the pantry. It's looking, it looks amazing. It's crazy how nice it looks with all this trim in here. All right, I have one more to do, and then I'm done. There is this kind of globby run right here. Hopefully the camera can see it. So what I'm gonna do here is I will mask this side and I mask this side, and I'll spray the band board and the crown again after I sand it, and then I am done with spraying in here. Okay, it's been a few days. Everything's kind of cured out pretty well. I don't see any more touch-ups that need to be done or any more runs or anything. So I'm going to start taking all my masking down. I'm going to start the windows to get some more natural light in here so I can make sure that I am 100% happy with everything. And then I can start doing all the actual tear out of all the stuff that makes us look like a kill scene. So I'm really happy to report that that is it for paint, or at least for paint inside the space. There's still plenty of other things that we'll be painting along the way here, but I'm done with all of the paint work in the space. And this is actually one of the things that I was the most worried about, getting into the whole spray finishing thing, this being my first endeavor with that. And that's spraying vertically and spraying things in place. So much of what I was doing up to this point was to avoid having to spray things in place, and the coverage, it's not as good as if I had sprayed them on the flat, but it is like significantly better than it used to be, or when it was when I first started, and it is definitely in the good enough realm of things. So I'm quite happy that it all kind of, it looks good. The weird thing about it too is like it doesn't change that much, but it does change a lot in a sense too, because everything has been homogenized. All of the little gaps in the seams are gone, and it just looks really consistent and even all the way around. So that's fun. So that's paint is done. We're gonna take care of some more room stuff to kind of wrap up the last bit of trimming here, and we're gonna get started with some caulking. Now the sink is finalized, I can caulk it in. It needs to be caulked along the sides where it meets the cabinets, and it needs to be caulked along the bottom where it sits onto the drip ledge. And then from there, I can go ahead and caulk in the window sills where the stone meets the jambs and the casings on the windows. Okay, all those casings and jambs are caulked in, and I think while those are curing, I'm gonna go around a little bit and take care of some hardware. Okay, I think to finish up this video, we're going to take care of a little bit of trim. We have the cove mold that goes underneath the countertop that goes, everywhere. I can get that installed now, get that out of the way, and then we also have the paneling that goes back there. So the look back there is going to be exactly the same as it is here in the pantry with the V-groove paneling sitting on top of the stone backsplash. I'm gonna hold off on installing the paneling back here. We are still working on figuring out a new backsplash tile, so I'm gonna leave that off for now in case for some reason we decide that it'd be cool to do something other than paneling back there. So with all that painting behind me, that was the last, let's say, marathon of this project. Everything going forward now is just a bunch of 5Ks that are a little less daunting and intimidating, but I'm really happy with the way the room has kind of transformed, and we're kind of to the end of what we're gonna call like the trim room prep pathway. A lot of the stuff remaining is all part of the cabinetry pathway, which is what we're gonna switch back to next time. So that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. For any questions or comments on the crazy paint job thing, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.